how often does this feel like a job versus I'm really enjoying what I'm doing?
The honest answer,
Yep.
I feel like I've been on vacation for 2 years.
Wow.
I mean, as life is that much more enjoyable.
Have you ever wanted to quit your job and go full-time as a photographer? Well, if so, this interview is for you because Bill Howard did just that, and we're going to talk to him about it. Today, I think we're really going to inspire you around photography. This whole story is built around inspiration. I want to welcome Bill Howard to the show. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk with you. So let me just kick it off with a little bit of a story. So Bill sent me an email probably a few weeks back, and he told me his story just in high bullet points in the email, and I only got about 2 lines in, Bill, and I stopped reading. And the reason I stopped is what caught my attention 2 lines in was that you quit your job to become a photographer. And I stopped reading there because when I interview people, I don't want to know the whole story. I like to just kind of pull it out. And I was so inspired hearing you quit your job to become a photographer that I was like, yes, I definitely want to talk to Bill. So Bill, tell us more of that story. Kick us off with your story, your journey as a photographer.
Sure. Back in college, I went to school for journalism, and it had nothing to do with photojournalism. It was to write. And when my wife and I got married 20 plus years ago, I found my career as in the automotive service industry. And for 19 years, I was a service manager mostly with General Motors. And I don't know if there's 3 people that hate you whenever you're a service manager: the technicians, the bosses, and the customers. The bosses want more money, the technicians want more time, and of course the customers don't want to pay for anything. So it's a very stressful job. And I don't drink and I don't smoke, so the stress just added up even more. I had won an award with General Motors, and I got a camera out of it. It was a Nikon 3300. And about the same time that came in, we restructured my contract at work. And it was going to cost me money, a significant amount of money. So I decided rather than be a service manager and have to deal with all the stress, I would just move to the parts counter. And during that time, I talked to my wife, well, I got this camera. Let's see if I can find some small paying gigs. Back in the film days, I did some dressage, shot the equestrian horse events, and did some small sports stuff too. And so I contacted a company that basically does all the equestrian shows here in North Carolina, and he brought me in as an extra photographer. It worked out, so I was making an extra $75 here or there. But in the process, I also found a couple of commercial jobs, and I had never even thought about going into commercial photography. And they paid well. I was able to work them during the weekend when I was off at the dealership. And at that time, I was making as much money over the weekend as I did at the dealership during the week. So one particular client, had another client that I picked up. I took my vacation to shoot that over a week-long period in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, multiple locations, shot the facilities and headshots of the management. And this is all with a D3300. So, entry-level camera.
Yep.
And a kit lens. I did get a 50 millimeter DX lens, which like $110.
Yep.
And
I've got that exact setup.
Exactly. And it's a great camera. Don't get me wrong. It's what launched my career. So, I did my vacation and shot for the one client. And when I got back, I started talking to my wife. I said, well, if this other one that I've been shooting for on the weekends, they said they have 360 properties for me to shoot if I want them. And I think I'm going to tell them if they can guarantee me all 360 with the money I'll get from the one I did on vacation, I'm going to go ahead and turn in my notice, and I'll have enough backup money where I'll have a few months to try to keep building my game, so to speak. And it worked out from there. I turned in my notice 6 weeks in from my first paid gig. 6 weeks later, I turned in my notice.
Wow.
They took my notice that day, and I have not looked back since. And as of July 14th, made it 2 years.
Wow. So it was really the real estate photography. You had that job that gave you the, let's just call it the floor to be able to make that leap.
Right. It gave me a base to work with. And they liked what I was shooting for them. I had found a way where I could make money shooting it. They don't pay a lot of money on that particular company per property, but they're giving me 360 properties.
That's exactly right.
In fact, today, last week I was in Kentucky and Ohio shooting for that same company.
Okay.
And as long as when you go into business, or the way you make money is either you build your higher income or you control expenses. And you have to figure out which way, is this job worth it? Can you make this job worth it? And that's what I plan to do, because either that or I was going to have to find a part-time job or another job. And I've had so much freedom. I've been able to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So
yeah. Let's talk about that, the freedom side of it. So first, let me ask you the question, like happiness ratio. Before, when you were with GM, after now as a photographer, like talk us through that side of it.
My wife and my kids have both told me many, many times that I am much happier now than I was then.
Good.
And yes, like I was gone all week last week on a job.
Yep.
So one way you can look at it is, well, he's not at home. Is it worth not being at home? Well, honestly, when I was with General Motors, I was leaving at 6 in the morning. I was getting home at 7 in the evening. When I got home, I was eating supper and I was grumpy. I would get my shower. I would want to sit in the recliner and watch TV.
There's millions of people that can relate to that.
Exactly. You didn't want any more people around you. So I have so much more freedom now. Like this week, yes, I was gone last week, but I'm at home all week this week.
Good. So much happier now. Now let's look on not the other side of it, but talk me through like the income rate. Like,
I was able to replace it.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. I was able to replace the income that I made with General Motors.
So you're at about same level as when you were working at GM.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay.
Don't feel comfortable answering. Just say, hey, man, it's probably too much.
Okay.
But I'm fascinated by your story. I'm fascinated by becoming a full-time photographer, but I'm in no place where I feel like I can make that leap. But like, what is the income potential? Like
one of the things I struggled with early on was to how to price jobs.
Yeah.
Like my early clients, the ones I've just shot for here recently, they told me what they would pay, and then I had to determine whether I could make it off what they paid, and I could.
Yeah.
Both of them have actually given me raises over the last 2 years. As far as, hey, Bill, we're going, don't send the invoice for this. We've raised it this amount per property. Cool.
Ah.
But the way I figured it, I needed $50,000 a year to make to come out where I wanted to be.
Yep.
And based on that, 26 weeks in a year, I was figuring I needed to make basically $1,000. I mean, 26 weeks, 52 weeks. I needed to make $1,000 a week.
Yeah.
So my mentality was, on a 5-day work week, I need to make $200 a day.
That's a good way to think back to it, right?
And just kind of simplify things. And then once I was able to figure things out, then I knew this particular job I can make $400 on, or this one I might make $800 on. This one I'm gonna have to take a hit. It's going to pay me $100, but guess what? I haven't shot in an hour. Something like that.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I base everything on is, am I going to make the amount per day that I need to make?
Yes.
And early on, if I had a day where I knew I was going to make 600, I didn't go into the next day thinking that was a day off. I went into the next day thinking, okay, that day, whatever work I schedule, I still have to make at least 200 that day.
That's awesome.
So, and that's how it worked out.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing.
That's no problem. And the other thing, you just got to have your wife on your side if you're married. If she can't, we went through the first winter. Sports doesn't pay a whole lot. The newspaper was paying me like $20 a gig, but I might shoot. For them, I might shoot 2 games a night, which is only $40. I mean, they still had to make 160 somewhere that day. In the way my planning was. So no, it didn't pay a whole lot per game, but I've still got to live. I got to feed my family, and I got to keep my wife from saying, "Hey, Bill, you need to find a part-time job."
Yeah.
The part-time job, then all of a sudden I can't schedule, photography on a.
You lose the flexibility.
Exactly.
That's good. That's good. So
my business plan may not be the perfect one, but it has worked for me for 2 years.
That's what makes it perfect. How long did it take you to get to that? Was it immediate or did it take time?
It takes time, but it wasn't like I was making half the amount of money I made at General Motors when I went full time.
Okay.
I'm talking, actually, during the summer was really good. I was making more money with photography right off the get-go than I was at the dealership. During the winters, when things changed around a little bit, you just don't have as many commercial jobs. You're not going to shoot, exteriors of commercial buildings in the snow on the ground.
Yep.
So in that regards, I started trying to get back into sports photography a little bit.
Okay.
There's a local newspaper that I shoot for. They don't pay a whole lot, but I was able to shoot both high school, then college, and then also I covered. It was the same year the Carolina Panthers went to the NFC Championship, and I was there on the sideline all the way through it.
Wow.
I didn't get to shoot the Super Bowl. They didn't send me out there. But in that regards, I also was able to build up my sports photography portfolio, and I now shoot for 2 agencies.
Okay. Let's drill in on that, because sports photography, I went to your website and you have a variety of different types of photography, which I'd like to talk to you about. But sports really did catch my eye. And since we're on that topic, I think you just mentioned you started with a local paper. Now you're with agencies. Like, talk us through, for someone that is interested in sports photography, how to get in, how does that work? Like, just talk us through kind of your journey in sports photography.
In fact, there's several people that I've met in various sports photography groups, say on Facebook.
Okay.
And I've helped them get their career started, so to speak.
Great.
But the thing is, I just tell them, this is what I did. You should try this too.
Okay.
If you want access to college games, Division I football games, for instance, then you're not going to be able to go to the school and say, "Hey, I want to shoot on the sideline." They're just not going to let you.
I got to pause you there. I literally called my alma mater today because I was inspired by your website. I was like, hey, I'm going to call Texas Tech, where I went to school. I got a helmet up there somewhere. And I called him and I was like, hey, I have a YouTube channel. I want to come shoot. And the guy was like, hey, I'm happy to ask, but I don't think this is going to happen. So anyways, it's so funny you said it's not going to happen because, yeah, they were like, probably not.
There is a way to get in with Division I, and I'll discuss that with you in just a second.
Okay, keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. And but seriously, contact local newspapers.
Okay.
Say, look, you need a stringer. They may or may not pay you.
Fine.
And a lot of especially sports photographers, will jump on me about this. Sometimes it's not about the pay. It is about the access, so that you can work on with better lighting. Better athletes and plus you have access to better photogrophers to learn.
Excellent.
When you're on that sideline.
So you're getting that experience.
Exactly. So if you get with a local newspaper, ask an editor, do you have any spots for a stringer? Equipment does matter a little more in sports than it does in some other types of photography. You've got to have a fast lens. You need a camera body that can handle low light, especially if you're going to be shooting high school football. I don't know about, say, Texas, but here in North Carolina, our games are at night.
Yep, same here.
So, and then when you get into basketball season, it's the same way. There's better lighting in this bedroom here than there is in some of the high school gyms.
I've heard that. So hit me quick on the gear. I typically don't go too much into gear, but fast lens, obviously zoom, like how fast do I need one of those Canons that's $15,000 or like how, give me like
that's kind of, that's an interesting topic too. Cause, honestly, and this is, I've got on with 2 agencies with this by turning portfolios. I'm kind of a minimalistic on my equipment only because I went into business for myself. I knew I didn't need extra debt to keep this business going. Mm-hmm. So all my equipment I upgraded when I could buy it.
Okay.
All right. So I've got a Nikon D750 body. It's not an ideal sports lens, but it's ideal for what I mostly make my money on. And it's more than capable in sports.
Yep.
My go-to lens is the trusty 7200 lens.
Okay.
7200 2.8. There's going to be, they're going to say you can get extra reach with the 400 for baseball or for football. And honestly, you can, but you don't have to have it, especially if you're shooting for a newspaper.
So 7200 can be enough.
Yeah. The newspaper wanted 3 photos. He wanted a vertical, a horizontal, and then one of my choice. Well, I don't need a 400 lens to get that reach if all I really need to turn in is 3 photos. So it was 3 photos, and the rest were mine to play around with, build my portfolio with.
Wow. So when you say he wanted 3 photos, that's the takeaway from them giving you the access.
I sent to him so he could choose what to run in the paper.
Got it. And the rest of it, you were just building a portfolio.
Now, for agencies, it's a little bit different.
Okay.
On the agencies, we're looking, say, 20 to 40 photos during the game or right after the game photos, action photos. And then a couple of days later, you'll send in another 20 to 100 what we call stock photos. Okay. That's where you're going to have the upper body torsos of the football players, the ones with J.J. Watt's spitting out his mouthpiece, pulling his helmet back with a bloody nose type stuff.
Got it.
Stuff that'll go on football cards or magazine covers, or things like that.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, great advice. Start with the paper, get the access, build that up, and then longer term, working for an agency, things like that. It sounds like that's where more of the income and the jobs can come from.
And especially once you get up, to the USA Today's, the Getty, AP. Yeah, that's a hard market to get into with those 3, but they pay you a game fee and you can get commissions off of them. Where the agencies I shoot for are just strictly commissions. Okay. That being said, I got a sheet today. Excuse me. I mean, I've had stuff that's run on ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Good Morning America on a sports photo. I don't know which photo it was or when they ran it. ABC World News Nightly. Wow. So the stuff's out there, and then I cover NC State, which is my alma mater. Yeah. And we didn't have a great basketball season, but we did have Dennis Smith Jr., who's now playing down in Dallas, and so a lot of his stuff sold for me, even though the year was pretty bad in basketball.
Got it. And the cool thing about that is you're shooting for the agency. It's the agency that's doing all the soliciting and marketing of it, and so you're not actually having to go out.
What I have to do is, and that's another thing. When I first started shooting sports with the paper, my editor's really easy to get along with. I send in those 3 photos, and even back then, I would take it and send it Wi-Fi to my phone, and I'd send it from my phone to him because Charlotte's about 3.5 hours from where I live. Okay. So I would send it to him, and I'm saying this based on Carolina Panthers. Yeah. But high school, if they have a 9 o'clock deadline to get the paper, to get it to the paper. So at halftime, I may have already covered 2 games for him, so I'm sending the photos from the games. Got it. I don't have to caption. He's got all the player numbers. He'll caption it, and that was fine. The agency's completely different. You have to caption everything. You edit and caption during halftime. Try to send in 10 to 20 photos at halftime, get back out on the field, and then send the other 10 or 20 after the game.
Got it. Oh, that's cool. All right, Bill. Thanks for
that.
Say that again.
It takes a little while to get used to that.
No, oh, I can imagine. That's awesome. That just gives us great insight into what it takes to get into that sports side of photography. So thank you for digging in deep there. Let's kind of go back to the career aspect of it. So looking at your website, you do a variety of different genres. I can see on the website, aerial photography, obviously commercial and corporate, headshots, photojournal, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read them all. There's the sports photography. I just have a few questions kind of about the variety of different things you shoot. So let's just kind of drill through them. It can be quick run and gun if you want.
Okay.
Which job yields the best income?
Commercial.
Okay. Which job say it again?
For me, anyway.
Okay, no, that's fair. Totally fair.
My primary income.
Yep. Which job yields the most fulfillment?
The personal projects, landscapes, that type thing. Yeah. But probably sports behind that. Okay. I enjoy the sports. I would shoot the sports for free if I had to, if I had time to do it.
Okay. So personal projects and sports. And then which one yields the most consistency in work?
The commercial.
Okay. So commercial's got 2 out of 3 there.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Why don't you give us some tips and tricks on getting into the commercial side of photography for someone that wants to make a career of it?
After the first 2 gigs that I found were off Craigslist.
Wow.
And the jobs I found on Craigslist, they're still my clients 2 years later. And I went to, 3 weeks ago, I think I talked with you. I was up in New England and went to Acadia National Park. Yeah. That was one of the clients. And then the other client was the one I just got back from last night.
And so the Acadia one, what was the job, assuming you can talk about any of the details, but like what was the job? Who were you shooting for? What were they wanting? Give us some insight.
Yeah. I was shooting for a self-storage facility company there. Okay. And I shot the facilities and headshots of the management. This particular trip, I didn't have to shoot the headshots of the management, but I was shooting facilities for their marketing purposes. Yeah. They had just bought a whole bunch. This particular company owns nearly 700 storage facilities throughout the U.S. Okay. So I shot for them and got that. Whenever they have their next bunch, which is usually every quarter, they may have anywhere from 30 to 50 locations for me. Bill, can you do this? I've only had to turn down one job, and that was because they had one location in Las Vegas. Okay. And from North Carolina to Las Vegas was just too far. Yep. However, last May, I think they had 5 in Las Vegas, and I had another company that said that they had a few in Las Vegas also. So it made the trip worthwhile because that was a 2-week trip. I had shoots in Oxford, Mississippi, drove to Las Vegas, spent 3 nights at the Grand Canyon, shot the stuff in Las Vegas, came back, had Austin, Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, Tampa, Miami, and home.
Wow. And that all goes back to that point you made earlier. You got to balance the income with the expenses to see if it's worth it. Having that much work makes the trip worth it.
Exactly. And people have asked, well, why don't you fly? Well, by the time I fly and then base the clients that I have, it's not one spot, it's locations. Yeah. So then you have to rent a car. Then I still got to pay for gas for the rental car. Yeah. I'm better off driving. I've got it set up. I've got basically a camper in the back of the truck. So when I don't deal with people, I'll sleep there, take showers at truck stops. Yeah. When I deal with people, then I'll get a hotel room.
Got it. Good. And the mileage is tax deductible, so I'm sure that helps on the tax side of it.
And even then, I'm figuring out, I have to base it. When I get a job list, they send it to me, and then I start mapping it out. Okay, this is going to be 2,000 miles. This is what I'm going to get paid for the job. Yes, I can do this one. Okay. But, and I'm going to shoot for especially those primary 2 clients, I'm going to shoot for them anytime I can. Okay. Simply because they're the ones that help me get to where I'm at.
And you got them on Craigslist, and now it's just a relationship that's evolved over time. Right.
And the another the other big lead source that I got was from Thumbtack. Thumbtack was hard in the very beginning, and I may have bid on 15, 20 jobs and never even got somebody to reply to me.
Okay.
But then all it took was one, and then I kind of got an idea of how everything worked, and I started picking up more and more. In fact, Thumbtack had interviewed me about my success to share with other photographers. But I always say, and I'll tell this for any aspiring photographers that want to get into business for themselves on the commercial side. If you get a client, look at where the check's coming from. I'm in North Carolina. If I've got a check coming from Seattle, that means they're a national company. They're not based in North Carolina. Do you have other locations that you need shot to?
Yeah.
The way I picked up that first big client was I'd asked that the ad I answered was for a location about 15 miles from home, one location. And I said, I saw that they were out of state. Do you have any other locations? She sent me 27. I said, well, I'll be happy to do all of them if you will take me on. And one of the key selling points is then you have consistent photography for every location.
That's right.
She bit, and now we get along great. She contacts me, Bill, I've got this. Can you go shoot it for me? Bill, I got this. Can you go shoot it for me? And it is what's maybe get to where I am today. So
that advice is brilliant. And had you not asked that question, it would have been one job done.
Exactly. And you see, that's the thing about Thumbtack. Somebody had said, well, even if you get Thumbtack, it's a low-ball job. They're always low-balling their numbers out. In some cases, that is the case. But I can't tell you how much money just getting one job on Thumbtack has made me, because I was able to keep that client all the way through, up to today. I'm still shooting for that client.
That's right.
About once every 3 months. But they contact me without going to Thumbtack anymore. And then if it's something I can't shoot, then they'll find somebody to shoot the other for them.
Yep. Oh, it's good. So talk us through the business side of it. So obviously we won't go into photography. We love doing photography, but it's the business side of it is probably that much more important. Just give us some thoughts on that.
Well, the first rule, especially if you're going to jump feet first, is do not create more expenses by going in debt.
Okay.
Again, you make your profit on either raising income or dropping expenses or both. That's the only way to make profit.
Yep.
So there's no reason for me to increase my expenses because I need this camera. I don't necessarily need this camera. One of the reasons I got the D750, the D3300 doesn't bracket.
Yep.
There was one company that I was shooting for that did vacation rentals, and they wanted all their stuff in HDR. They would edit in-house, so I didn't have to edit at all, but I had to bracket the shots.
Yep.
Well, D3300 won't do it. What do I do? Well, I didn't buy the D750 to bracket. I went and bought a used D200 for $150 because it would bracket. I sent those in, and then over time, as I had my money put to the side, I knew I wanted either the D810 or the D750, and I ended up getting the D750. And yeah. I love the camera. It's a great camera.
That's good. Good. Great thoughts on the business. I mean, just great inspiration overall.
I can also add in there that you really got to, if you do jump feet first in, that you can't just doggy paddle. You're going to have to swim against the current. I mean, you're going to really have to hit it hard. You can't say, you see so many people, especially in like these photography groups and stuff, where they say, well, this is what I want to do. I'm committed to do it. But the commitment's not really there. They think they're committed. But honestly, at night, I'm down to watching one television show a week.
Yep.
And usually it's just as background noise.
Yeah.
Even when I'm driving on my long trips, I don't even turn the radio on anymore. I'm constantly thinking, okay, if I get this done by this time, it means I can get home a day earlier. There was a job I can do in Wilson, if I can get that in and have this time off if I need to. So it's you really have to keep that mentality that every minute you're thinking about where you can go next with this. And one of the great things about photography, especially the way I'm doing it, I'm not stuck in one aspect of it, so it doesn't get boring. I get to shoot sports. I get to shoot the commercial properties. I'm getting into landscapes this year and having some success with it. I've also started shooting some stock photography, meaning pictures of a McDonald's sign. Yep. And I've got on with Getty with that, for instance. I've got on with Getty, iStock, Dreams Time, the Adobe one, Shutterstock.
Yeah.
So I've got some of those now too, and the money's not great yet because I just started that about 2 months ago. But I think if I continue turning in some of that over time, that'll also, you'll see it go from, instead of $30 a month to $500 to $1,000 to $2,000. There's several people that's all they do is shoot stock photography. Sure. It's not what I want to do. I don't want to do just that. I ain't looking to make my living off stock photography.
Yep.
I want to keep enough mixture to make this remainder part of my life very entertaining.
Yeah. And I think your point earlier of having the different genres keeps it entertaining, doesn't let it just get mundane and the same thing over and over. Nick Page told us the same thing. He's known for landscapes, but he does a ton of other stuff to bring in the income. So I think it's spot on. All right, Bill.
At the very bottom, I've got on there about the weddings and engagements.
Yeah.
Got it there, but that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
If you were to ask me what was the most frustrating or the most stressful, that would be the one.
Okay.
I never wanted to get into that, but of course, once people hear you're a photographer and they see some of your work, such and such is getting married, would you like, they would love for you to shoot this, and so you feel obligated to an extent.
All right, so Bill, I do have another question, which you've talked about the enjoyment of being a photographer. You've been able to get the income back to where it was when you're working for GM. How often does this feel like a job versus I'm really enjoying what I'm doing?
The honest answer?
Yep.
I feel like I've been on vacation for 2 years.
Wow.
I mean, as life is that much more enjoyable.
That's cool to hear.
It's no longer work if it's what you enjoy doing. So
that is the truth. Wow. Okay, cool. Because that's my fear is like you get into it, you love photography, you get into it, and all of a sudden it becomes a job. Yeah. And then you lose that love. But it sounds like that hasn't happened. You're still enjoying what you're doing every day. Exactly.
And again, it's got a little bit to do with the variety that I'm able to shoot.
Yes.
If I was just, say, a product photographer, and it would feel a whole lot more like work if every day what I was doing was taking something and putting it in a light box and taking a shot and putting it up and then getting something else and putting it in a light box and taking another shot.
Yeah.
It becomes mundane. But keeping the variety will keep the smile on your face most of the time. People don't like getting stuck in one thing. They don't like change, but they don't like getting stuck in one thing.
I can totally see that. That's awesome. So, Bill, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us, where can we find more about you?
Okay, you can go to my website at wjhowardphotography.com. It also has links to my YouTube channel, and of course, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. I think those links are on that website also.
Thanks, Bill. We enjoyed it.
No problem. Thank you, and look forward to seeing some more of your videos too.
Yeah, man. All right, awesome.